Recording.
Hey guys, welcome back to Carlienne's Corner. We are Adventures of Carlienne. I am Adrienne.
And I am Carl.
And we appreciate you guys' patience. We've been a little bit MIA dealing with some family issues, but everything is all good now. So we are back at it, ready to share basically what was just how many years ago now?
Yeah, it's been 2 years since we went around the world. And we obviously didn't get a chance to share our stories, share our memories, our fun things with our friends, with our family, just because when we got back, COVID hit. So we didn't really get to hang out with anyone. We came back just in time, I guess you could say.
Yeah. We're super blessed. Timing was perfect for us. And actually, the sort of ironic thing now is that we are getting into fall/winter-ish, winter for Bay Area. The second I have to put on a sweater, I'm like, okay, it's basically winter. So
I'm always
spoiled.
wearing a sweater, so.
Yeah.
But anyway, if you're first timer on this channel, on this podcast, you know, Adventures of Carlienne is all about pursuing your passions, really taking each day, trying to improve yourself every day. So I hope you guys join in on our adventure. Maybe you're on the same adventures as we are. So yeah, you know what to do. Subscribe, like, whatever.
We are everywhere. So wherever you like to be.
Wherever you want to be, we're there. That is creepy. But hey, we're there. We're there though.
Yeah. So we, in our timeline of the trip, have kind of been working our way through Europe. And we are spending December now, I think, during our trip. And we have just made it to Switzerland. Woo!
Yeah. Yeah. So if you missed any of the other ones, they're about a few months old now, but you can catch them on our YouTube. You know, there's pictures on there from our trip. You'll see little memories that we have, pictures we took. But if not, and you're just listening to it with your ears, then hi. We're on Switzerland, Geneva to be exact.
Yeah. So as we were arriving to Geneva, we started to feel a lot more of the winter, the Christmas. We were definitely looking forward to all those Christmas markets. That was kind of our only itinerary, I guess. And we were also really anticipating, as other people, have said, Switzerland is super expensive. So we were really kind of worried about that, or just really cognizant of it. And so I think just before we went to Switzerland, we literally bought a small jar of Nutella, planning to not eat out so much.
Yeah.
And of course, that was kind of silly because Nutella is everywhere in Switzerland, and they put it in everything in all the Christmas market, goodies. At the hotel we ended up staying at, they gave us free breakfast, and sure enough, there's Nutella there. So we never even opened that jar.
No, I don't think we touched it at all.
Anyways, but speaking of hotels, the hotel we stayed at in Geneva was the lessons learned moment for Carl and I, especially
Technically,
me.
it wasn't a hotel. It's a hostel.
It's
right?
Essentially a hostel.
Yeah, it's just basically there are rooms on. It looks like a hotel. There are rooms on each floor. Each floor has a shared bathroom, their own shared bathroom, and definitely the first time we've ever done that. But being that we didn't know that, I don't know if they just didn't put it on their website or when we were booking. I'm sure they did, but or whatnot. I think we actually booked for a room that had its own bathroom, though.
To be honest, I don't remember at this moment anymore. And I'm sure part of it was my fault because the place is called Hotel Saint Gervais. And I booked it on hotels.com. So naively, maybe at that time, certainly booking websites have more and more options now. But during the time, it didn't really dawn on me that it might not be a hotel listed. So we didn't realize this until basically like the day before we were supposed to go over to Geneva. And I was like double checking, all of our logistics. And I looked at it and I was like, oh my God, I think this says that we have a shared bathroom. And I was like, I'm pretty sure I looked for this. How come I don't remember? And so long story short, we called them and we were like trying to talk to them. And they were basically, well, you have a non-refundable, you can't cancel your room. But we do have one room that does have a private bath, but you're going to have to basically upgrade and, pay an extra, essentially like $50 a night for it. And I was like super irritated because, of course, I didn't want to pay more money. And I felt like kind of like I knew it was my fault for not like reading everything, triple checking, etc. But I was just like burning inside, and the Asian me going like I don't want to spend more money than I have to, especially if we're going to be in somewhere really expensive to begin with. But like Carl and I talked through it, and there's just certain things that you as a person have to decide like what's important to you. Like what do you need to be comfortable? What do you need to feel good about your time somewhere? And for me, potty time is private time. and that, like I had not traveled a lot. I had not have to like share bathrooms very often, other than like college roommates and such. But, we're in a foreign place and we were just like, maybe this is something that's like high priority to us and we should indeed spend the money, and it's okay because this is like a necessity for us.
Yeah. I mean, there's nothing wrong with like a shared bathroom or people who like travel around doing hostels, share a bathroom, share pretty much everything, right? But we kind of talked about it even before the trip that's not really for us, right? And we've heard of some couples that do that, and that's cool. Like, there's nothing against that. It's just, it's just definitely not us. So there are things when you're traveling, here's a lesson. If you're traveling, it's like, if you have to sacrifice like being comfortable or like certain things just to save money, you probably shouldn't go, or you probably should do something else kind of thing. But we knew like budgeting for the year, that's just not something we really wanted to do. Hostels, shared things, shared space, and this and that, especially like, if we were to actually do a hostel, we have a lot of gear, carrying a lot of gear, and there's not something, it's not really a problem we really wanted to deal with, like having gear stolen. I mean, my brother loves doing the hostel thing, and he's told me nothing, I would say maybe 95% good stuff about hostels. 95%. He's, of course there are some things that, shit happens. But so we just didn't want to, take that chance really with all our gear, and we're just not comfortable with it. So that's just how we traveled. And anyway, back to the story. So this hotel or hostel or whatever, we upgrade our room. We have our own bathroom. But and this is a big but. Not really. It's a normal size but. But me and Adrian at this point haven't really been in the bathroom at the same time.
Like I said, potty time's private time.
And I always continue to joke, like, that's one of the things. It's like it's a barrier or a threshold or something you have to pass.
Boundaries.
Yeah, like a boundary you have to go through together. It's like, is it okay? Is it not? We've been together for how long at that point?
At what point do you start to use the bathroom together at the same time?
At the same time. And it's okay. One's on the toilet. One's brushing their teeth. One's taking a shower. One's on the toilet. Like what is acceptable here? Yeah. So speaking of that, we had our own bathroom, but it wasn't a door. It was just a curtain, right? The curtain.
A flannel, like a plaid curtain.
Yeah.
So that when you sat on the toilet, you were literally facing the person, just separated by a curtain.
Yeah. So, I mean, like, they're going to hear all the music you're putting out down there.
So that was a milestone in our relationship.
Yeah, after that, now there's no problem. Both of us being in the bathroom, really. It's like, oh, hey, you're here? Great. Well, I'm gonna brush my teeth. Why don't we use the next after you? Kind of thing. So, thanks, Geneva. I don't know.
Yeah. So the bathroom was one part of it, but it was actually worse than that because when we arrived, the whole hotel is supposed to be non-smoking. But when we arrived and we checked into our room, the room smelled like smoke. It smelled like a smoker's room. And we were like, that's strange. Okay, so we told the front desk, but at the time they're like, well, we can't get a cleaner person to come in until tomorrow. And we were like, well, okay, Carl has asthma, so we don't really feel comfortable trying to sleep in a room, that has smoke in it. And she was like, well, they don't have any other rooms available. And it's also really cold, so you can't really leave the window open. So that first night was really rough. We did in fact see, so, the person probably wasn't smoking literally inside the room, but just outside of the window, on the roof, there's a little divot and you could actually see cigarette butts there. So somebody was obviously smoking just, in the window. And that night, Carl had a really difficult time sleeping. He woke up with, a severe headache, and we basically kind of had to take that first day super easy. But luckily, the people did have someone come in and aerate the room. They sprayed the crap out of it with some Febreze type of stuff, to make it smell cleaner. But when we got back, the cigarette butts were still outside the window. So we kind of felt like they kind of just put a Band-Aid over the situation. Yes, we're glad that they did something immediately as soon as they could. But we were pretty disappointed with our overall experience there, I'd say.
Yeah.
The only saving grace of this place was during breakfast. If you ordered hot chocolate, they have, they make it with powder, but they have an espresso machine and the lady steams the milk. So your hot chocolate is with steamed milk. And I remember being like, this is so nice. That, that's so much better, because normally when you're when people, I don't know, maybe Europeans are much better about it, but in America, when you order a hot chocolate, it's usually hot water and powder, and it's disgusting. So yes. Okay. Enough about that. I'm just going to move on.
So, things that we saw around Geneva. Obviously, one of the things to see is that jet d'eau. Did I say it right? I hope so.
Just the water fountain.
Yeah.
Jet of water.
Yeah, and it's literally just a jet of water. It's nothing. I don't want to say it's nothing special. I mean, of course, it's special to that place. I don't want to say anything bad, but if you're just looking at it, it's oh, it really just a jet of water out of the thing. But the cool part was that there was some kind of crazy competition going on where, okay, it is very cold. It was very, very cold. And there's a competition on the lake where these guys are jumping in half naked, swimming to another side or swimming somewhere and coming out. And man, they have it's a whole thing. It was kind of cool to see and see how crazy these people are, but then also see the medical tent pretty much full because of people just freezing their butts off. But they finished, or maybe they didn't, but
well, they jumped in.
They
right?
jumped in. They did it. And that's crazy. But yeah, what'd you think of it?
I think definitely it's more so don't go for the fountain, but go because the quay or the area surrounding it is kind of like a park, and they do seem to have these random sort of events there, this particular one. It was a legit event because there were tents for food, for medical. They had these big screens where they were projecting the cameras that were live, essentially live streaming.
If you've ever watched an Ironman or a triathlon event or some sort of event like that, it that's kind of how it was set up. It really looked like an Ironman event.
Except that you just jump into the lake, swim like 50 meters, and then come out, and that's it.
Yeah. I wish that's how long all the triathlons I've ever done were.
Yeah, but that's freezing water, and then you come back out into the air and it's freezing. It's like, oh, yeah, it just looked painful. So that was definitely interesting, and we have no idea what the event was. There were no like banners per se, but it happened on a Sunday, which was kind of cool because there was nothing else going on.
Right. So let us know if you're from Geneva, you're watching this, you're listening to this. Let us know if you know that kind of what that event was. Is it some sort of like polar plunge kind of thing? I think they do this in like Chicago too, where like the lake is like super cold. They drill a hole and then you just jump in, you come back out. Something like that. I think it's Chicago. I forgot.
And then all
where.
the Finnish people are laughing at them.
Yeah.
Because they're like, this is what we do on a day to day.
We go in and out of the freezing cold water, but they also go back into a sauna. And there was no sauna there.
Yeah, there was not. So yes, back to the attractions. Yes, let us know in the comments or contact us if you know if there's an event jumping into the quay during December and there's like nothing else. You just jump in it. So let us know what that is. Anyways, moving on to the other things that also kind of was like Geneva's famous for, but we were kind of like almost missed it because it was so tiny and then it felt very lackluster, was the flower clock.
Oh, yeah.
You know, it was like we were actually trying to find it following like Google Maps, and we were like walking around and like, I don't know, it's here somewhere. And then we'll like turn around and it's behind us, and it's literally just right next to the sidewalk of some main street. From the perspective of someone who's like used to going to gardens and like, you know, oh, like, yeah, sure, I love things like this. It didn't even feel like a garden. It didn't even feel like...
It's barely a garden.
It's
almost
barely
like,
anything.
You know, when you go to like Disneyland, if anyone's been to Disneyland,
that's
like
bigger.
that was bigger. Like you enter the park and then there's just like Mickey Mouse, whatever Disneyland, like landscaping with the, you know, flowers and.
Yeah, this clock was literally smaller than that. So you don't even think like a square, you know, 2 by 2 feet. Like it felt like it was that small. I'm just totally remembering and just guessing how big it actually is. But it felt very disappointing in that sense. But, you know, on the other hand, a lot of attractions in Geneva do not cost money, which is really helpful, given that you're spending a lot of money on your stay and your food. So at least you're not paying to go see these things that, you know, are not that stunning, I would say. Nothing wrong with them, but just kind of if you're like expecting anything, I feel like it's a little bit of a disappointment.
Especially if like you're going there for the first time, you do all this research, you're like, I'm gonna see this jet of water, I'm gonna see this clock made of flowers or whatever, and then you get there and you're just like, oh. But I mean, for something that's free, it's great. Especially like I hear we went in December again, not again, but like we went in December, and the whole back to the jet dough, like I saw pictures of it when it was like summer or spring, and people are like on this like walkway or whatever, and really just enjoying it, and it really looked nice. Like I can see why that's very appealing during that time. But in the winter, man, you just get colder watching that thing. Yeah. But anyway, back to free things.
Yeah, we ended up going to a lot of museums. And all of them were free. On certain days, they have multiple days where it's free, which is nice because it's not like you're going on a free day and knowing that you're going to be competing with the crowds. So we kind of just looked up all of the free days and then kind of like lined them up on a schedule that worked for us. Yeah, so I thought that was like a really nice aspect. I was sort of this whole like, oh, free education, you know, for folks, which I'm a really big fan of and supporter of. So we went to like the Museum of Natural History. which I was hoping like Carl would be a little bit more into because he's not that into art when we
Yeah,
go.
I'm not really like a museum person, but yeah.
But it's also a great thing to do when it's cold so that you're not outside. Yes. But so the Natural History Museum, as you can imagine, has a lot about, biology, like all the animals and stuff. They had this I find them really creepy, but it was such an extensive collection of like basically taxidermied animals.
Yeah.
Like they're kind of creepy, but it's also really fascinating to be able to see those animals like up close and like see those details.
They had a lot of them too. Like, I don't know if it was just because of the space, because it's not really that big, right? If anyone's been to the Smithsonian, like, or one of the Smithsonians, like, those are huge. Those museums are like very, very large, right? But this one is like not a very big building, so I'm not sure if like everything felt like would they have so much. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't know if it was just because of the space that it felt like they had a lot, but honestly, like wherever you turn, there's like a cheetah staring at you. There's wildebeests. There's a ginormous elephant. Like, there's so many things. You go up to the next level, it's like all about bugs, and other like antelopes and other things. And then you go even higher, it's about like asteroids or rocks or different kinds of rocks and stones and
The
stuff.
minerals.
Yeah. And I thought that was cool. Like, just to see it, I don't ever read any of those things. But Adrian reads a lot of those things. I'll read the things that really, really, really catch my eye. But like in general, like all of those things, like I've never seen like an exhibit or whatever it's called, like a section of a museum where it's like about minerals or like rocks or anything. Like, I've never seen anything like that. So I thought that was pretty interesting.
Yeah, like the minerals exhibit was actually quite a lot. It was like a whole floor. And it's just all these like different shapes. They had some like huge ones too, which is like stunning. But like I have minimal knowledge of, semi-precious stones, but I was just like, I've never heard of these things. Some of them look like paper origami pieces, or some of them have like these really intricate like icicle looking shapes. Some look like meteors. Some are like these like just crazy color combinations. They had this whole wall of minerals that actually glow in the dark. So they had like black lights, and that way you could see the colors. And that was really impressive. So, I mean, I think a lot of these types of exhibits, there's not necessarily, you don't have to read them. Like, you're not going to remember these names. But it is just the fact that you can see them for yourself and to know that they exist is pretty awesome.
Yeah, and the main thing is that it was free. It was raining and it was free.
Yeah, but it was really nice. And then going back to like the animals, like the taxidermies, like so many birds.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like really stunned because, especially like in real life, you'd never be able to get that close to a bird and like see them. And, thinking to when we went to like Singapore and we went to the bird park, and that was already really cool. But again, like you aren't that close to them. So in this kind of weird, creepy thing where you can be like all up in the bird's face and like looking and seeing those details, like the shimmer, the sheen of like their feathers and stuff. And just to know that there's so many different kinds of birds. I was really like, I took a bajillion pictures.
Which you'll see on the screen if you're watching this podcast on YouTube.
Yeah, I was just like, I think actually Geneva was probably one of the cities that I was most like really inspired. Like sometimes I like to take pictures of things, whether they're color combinations or shapes or things that kind of make like inspire me. And I'm like, I need to just like keep this and tuck this away somewhere and draw on it again later. Like old school Pinterest before Pinterest was a thing. When you just like went around, took pictures or cut scraps out of magazines, like, and you're like, oh man, this would be like a really cool costume, or this would be like a beautiful element of a dress or some piece of fashion. Or even when we went to the other museum and there was like the medieval times, I was like, oh, that totally would be a cool like
the art history.
Yeah, the art history where I was just like, man, that like knight's helmet and that sword. I was like, this would be a really cool video game character. Like I just like that. I was like, everywhere I turned, I was like, oh yeah, that's like amazing. Like I really want to just keep these little pieces, and God knows when I'll get to them, but but I just like needed to take those pictures.
Yeah. Well, speaking of like the art history museum, that was crazy. Like seeing all the weapons, like I get juiced when I see like martial arts or combat kind of exhibits or sections of a museum, and it's and this weapons one was like there was a sword. Now I'm not very tall by any means, but this thing was huge. Like there's no way even a 6-foot person used that sword. This guy had to be like
7 feet.
7 foot, 8 foot, the biggest, tallest person in the world at that moment to like hold this sword. It is taller than me for sure, but that's not saying very much for a man to be 5'2", 5'3". I'll give myself an extra inch. I think I'm 5'3". I'm not sure. But anyway, man, it was huge.
Yeah.
And it was like the blade was like thick.
Yeah, we had Carl stand next to it and took a picture of it, and we were just like, you know, it's a long sword, but how does this person like travel with it? You can't like sheath it and it like hangs on your hip. Like that's so long. Like then it's like there's no way anatomically you could also put it to the back because you still have to draw it out all the way.
There's no way.
So he's just walking around holding it in his arms or something.
It's some like a Hagrid size sword.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like it's ridiculously big. But some of the other weapons in there, like actually I really like the armor. There's like a armor section, and just like seeing the evolution of like how well they made like chain link.
Oh yeah,
Like
chainmail.
Yeah, or whatever. And stuff like that. And it kind of reminded me of like I'll just say it's one of my top 10 movies, A Knight's Tale, and how like, you know, the original armor he was wearing was really heavy. Well, at the time, all armor was heavy. Like all these knights needed a lot of help to get like onto a horse. And then there's, you know, he meets this woman blacksmith, and she figures out a way to make extremely light armor. And then everyone's laughing at Heath Ledger, rest in peace. And this guy just hops onto his horse. And I don't know, it just reminded me of that like whole scene in that movie. And I was just like, oh, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it is. It's like, it's the evolution of technology.
Yeah.
But back then things were so much slower, and you know, it's easy to now we were just talking about that, like technology moves so much quicker, right? Every year there's something newer, better, stronger. And back then it's like you go for decades. A whole war has to pass before like the technology changes. And yeah, it was just super striking, like all the helmets that they use. They even had like a whole collection of pistols, like old school pistols. Super, super cool. Yeah, I just thought we ended up seeing quite a lot of interesting exhibits that I was like not expecting. Oh, this is a caveat. Like when we go to museums, we don't like look at like what's on exhibit or like what's special. Like I never do that. I just like go with zero expectations and just look and see what I like.
I also go to museums with zero expectations.
Well, because some people are very, you know, like, oh, like if they have a particular artist they like or thing, then they're like, oh, I have to go see it, you know. But for us, we're kind of just more like really open-minded about it. Like we're just going to go and like whatever catches our eye, cool. If nothing does, okay, we'll move on. Like, you know, and there's never a goal to like, you have to finish. Like we're very much like, if you're done, like if you're just information overload or you're so tired because you've been standing the whole time, like we can go whenever. Like that's one of those things.
That's usually me that gets to that point first and quite early. But, you know, if it's anything combat related,
Well,
weapons.
They had the children's games.
oh, in the That's somewhere else in
No,
Lyon.
no. There was in Geneva in the Natural History Museum. I think there was like this little kid one, like a game you can play. It gives you like a souvenir picture at the end. It was like the bug
Oh,
one.
I kind of remember it. Yeah.
Yeah, it was just like a really small exhibit for kids, but there was like a little computer game that had to do with like bugs and like a bug's like lifespan or something like that. Anyways, and then you had to give you a little picture where you get to take the picture and it has like, little illustration characters like
Oh, I
framing the
remember it. We
picture.
sent it to her. We didn't print it. Like you could print it there. I don't think we printed it
I
though.
don't think so. Yeah.
And then
You just email it to yourself.
yeah,
Yeah.
I'm kind of slowly remembering that.
So those are always fun. But yes, just like a, encouraging reminder that as a traveler, like again, just like with a hotel and deciding that the bathroom, like a private bathroom, is important to us, I think we're trying to advocate for traveling in a way that is sustainable for you personally, and that you're getting the most out of it from your own perspective. So it's not about like, did you see everything that's there to see, or did you go to all of Geneva's famous landmarks because they're famous, like, but if they're not of interest to you, then you shouldn't use your precious time and spend it there. Like, you should definitely go, if you just love eating, just eat the whole time.
Yeah, for sure.
Or whatever it is that you particularly enjoy doing.
I think that's one of the greatest lessons about our trip. I mean, we kind of established that before we left too. It's like, I know some people that go to places, and well, I'm related to some people who also travel like it, but like they go to places and see things they're not really interested in, just so they can tell people or say that they saw it, whatever it is,
Chinese tourists,
and,
people.
And if you get a kick out of being able to tell people that, cool, but if you want a vacation to feel like a vacation, I think that's the biggest takeaway of this little lesson tip or whatever. Like, if you want it to feel like a vacation, relaxing, really actually reset your whole mind before you go home and do your whole thing again. Yeah, seriously, do the stuff you like. Like for me, food, right? Like I want to eat the foods, which we'll get to. I want to eat what's there, what's good there. Not necessarily I'm trying to look for like all the Michelin starred places. I just want, like, I'd rather go to a place and, I don't know, find a grandma who can freaking, or a grandpa who can cook us like an authentic whatever meal so I can like taste it. You know what I mean? Like it, yeah. Like that's the kind of food like I want to taste when I go to these different countries. Well, I'm sure some restaurants usually change flavors based on tourism, right? Based on, the palates of tourists. That's definitely a thing. I mean, gross or tasty, I want to know what the real thing tastes like. So anyway, back to the point. Like, do the stuff that you like. I mean, yeah, because then when you come home and you're ready, you're going back to work, like most of the time, I'd say a lot of people are like, oh, they need another vacation. They need another vacation from being back from vacation.
Yeah, exactly.
Because, their day was like packed from 7 a.m. to catch a tour group that would go wherever and walk through whatever stupidly fast. And, I'm a slow walker. So really fast, you don't really get to absorb anything. You get like 30 minutes for lunch or an hour for lunch, and you got to see something else, then get back on the bus and do it all again, go back to your hotel at like 5 or 6, do it again in the morning. Like, yeah, that's crazy.
It just comes down to doing things that doesn't like feed you, that doesn't rejuvenate you. So it's like really becoming conscious of what sort of things like wear you down, or what sort of things like inspire you, like build you up, bring you, like give you joy. So a lot of times people think, I'm here at somewhere new, this new country. I have to go see as many new things, different things as possible. And you don't want to waste your time going back to the same place or doing something again. But if it was something you really enjoyed, like, why not? Like, or if you go back to some place, then suddenly like you see the same waiter or same people at the same cafe and they're like, hey, I remember you. And suddenly like there's like an opportunity to have a relationship versus if you went somewhere new every single day, you would never run into the same people and you would just remain a stranger that comes and
I think
goes.
the opportunity of like creating a connection is much harder than, visiting that, your morning routine when you go on vacation is visiting that cafe that's down the street from your Airbnb. They see you by the last day of your trip. They already know your order. They're talking to you. And then it's like, oh, have you checked this out? Blah, blah, blah. Not even the last day. Maybe by like second or third day, they'll know like everything about your order at least.
Yeah, I think that's another thing to like people don't realize that they could take advantage of. It's like, especially if you look like a foreigner in that country, like people will recognize you a lot faster. So even if you have a limited amount of time there, spending 2 days or going twice or maybe 3 times somewhere, like people are going to remember you. And it's so much easier to then like, start that conversation or just, realize that their smile at you or the smiles you exchange are very different from like a complete stranger. It's like once you recognize someone and you're like familiar, it's like a very different feeling to like get a smile out of that person, and I found that like when Carlienne finally managed to slow down later in our trip, that those connections were just like the most impactful. And like by the time we got home, like of course those were the moments that stood out to us. So that's just a little rant on, I guess like lessons learned within our first couple of months traveling.
Definitely. But anyway, back to these attractions of Geneva. I guess one of the things you I don't want to say you should see, but one of the cool things I think is to visit the United Nations, just around that plaza. They'll
The broken chair.
The broken chair just in front of the UN. I mean, I don't know what else to say. It's a building. It's gated. There are tours, I think. But at the time, obviously, COVID, I have no idea now. But yeah, I mean, like just to see all the flags together, in the same area, you kind of like, for me at least, like just visually seeing a ton of like national flags in one spot, even if it is just a flag, like it feels like there's world peace kind of thing, and that's the point of the UN.
The unity. Yeah, I definitely agree. Although I understand why, but I wasn't expecting to view the flags from behind a fence. So again, I don't look at the pictures on Google when we're like researching places, but like to have to be behind the fence, I felt like very just like disconnected from it versus like the broken chair monument was like, you could stand underneath it and take that typical picture that everyone was taking. But so I do feel like sometimes, when it's like, oh, you just go up to something behind a screen and you take a picture of it, it doesn't feel like you actually did anything or saw it even so I felt like I didn't really necessarily enjoy seeing or get anything from seeing all the flags at the UN. But the broken chair monument, I did really enjoy because, well, I just like the concept of it, that from an artist's point of view, I thought like it was like such a strong concept, like, the chair, which is like a very domestic object, and it's just representing, so the broken chair is a monument to basically all the victims of war violence. So you think anything from like the landmines or, just all the people who are kind of on the sidelines that get caught up in things, and especially a lot of the children. And so I just thought it was like, in that sense, I felt a lot of what the UN stood for with that monument, more so than the flags behind behind the fence. But it was a little bit weird that like when people take pictures with it, it's like a very comical picture.
Trying to hold up the leg.
That was a
missing
little
leg.
bit weird to me. But, to each their own. I think it's like a very beautiful message. And I think throughout our time in Europe, we went to a lot of these like monuments that, we as I think Americans are not as steeped our history in war, like not our everyday. We don't have a lot of monuments through the States or in our everyday lives. But I felt like a lot of these cities that we visited in Europe, it had a lot more things where like you just felt like they were in the middle of the city, like you could touch it. They were part of daily life. And I felt like it was a lot more impactful and like a more constant reminder, which is why I think that that's part of why Americans don't have really good history understanding, amongst other reasons. There are many reasons, but we'll just leave that conversation for another time. Another surprising exhibit that I wasn't really expecting to enjoy as much. It's called like the Tavel House, but it's like it was in one of the oldest residences, and they transformed it into a museum for like urban living and modern day life. And it was sort of like this essentially like diorama of what life looked like back some time ago. So they have some of the rooms that are like behind a glass wall with all of their, like what their kitchen would typically look like back in this specific era. And so they had a bunch of rooms like that in there. But I really just liked this weird collection of doors that they had downstairs because they had these, like really beautiful ornate doors and like door knockers too, which, like in modern day, people don't know what those are. But like back then they had some really impressive like metalwork, like woodwork. So again, taking pictures of things, like being like, oh, this would be like a really cool like head of a monster that I could put on another body. And anyways, really weird. But I really actually enjoyed that exhibit. Strange, random, unexpected.
I don't remember too much from that, that place, other than the cannons that were outside that were outside of that.
Yeah, so there's just a lot of like these little museums or like smaller spaces that we just kind of surprisingly found ourselves really interested in various exhibits. So I felt like it was a very like informative, educational trip, unintentionally, of course. Yeah.
So like other things that we visited, which had a nice park, although they were doing some leaf blowing, so it wasn't as tranquil or peaceful as it should have been. But the Wall of Reformation, again, I don't really do my homework or read anything, but I honestly think it was very like, I guess I want to say beautiful how the wall was like carved, and they have like all those carvings of like all the men. I know they're significant. God, I suck. But we went there. I really should read about what it's about after 2 years of being there. But yeah, so I think that's one of the places like, that could be interesting for you. Just a little history of history. That was a very poor review of that area, but it is a little park. It's you should check it out if you just want to just hang out. There's a park, learn about something, and maybe in the comments teach me what it's about.
It's a good thing not that many people listen to our podcast.
Man.
You would get ripped alive. I think
would.
we would be in so much trouble. They'll be like those damn Americans. Quintessential, unknowing, uneducated people.
Yep.
we'll move on to some more festive, happy things.
Happy things. Yeah. So Geneva was the first time we experienced a Christmas market. It was what, about mid-December, I would say. Yeah, mid-December. Our first Christmas market was, I don't know if it was our first, but we went to
I think it was, yeah.
Parc du Bastion. Yes, that's the name. I believe that's the name. And it was just Christmas in the park over there, and they have, I guess in Switzerland there's so many different nations there. I'm not sure. I don't know. I'm trying to connect things, but this Christmas market, it was just weird because they had
It's very international.
Portuguese. They had Portuguese bafanas. So of course, since we loved Portugal, we got bafanas and we got pastéis de nata, right? Because we had to, because we wanted to remember.
Yeah. They were not as good.
They definitely were not as good, but
yeah, I think so the park was like super beautiful. It's normally a very beautiful park, but like for the Christmas market, they add all of these lights and like all up in the trees, and they even have like, these like light sculptures kind of. And they have like live music and some of the gazebos, and then just like music playing everywhere. And definitely that was one of the first things we noticed, was just like, wow, there's a lot of international foods. Like we got momos because, we got to try any sort of dumpling anytime they offer it. And then they have all like the drinks too, and hot like cocktails.
yeah,
hot
we got
chocolates.
like a Bailey's kind of hot cocoa.
And then also it was like there was one like super busy stall, which we didn't end up going to because the line was a little too long, but it was like okonomiyaki, which was like, we were like, what? So surprised. And we were just like really pleasantly like confounded at the fact that like there's just so much more ethnic foods than we were expecting. Certainly I would not say like out of everything we tried at that particular Christmas market, like nothing was amazing.
Yeah, nothing
and of
amazing.
course
I think
cost was too high, I think, and that's kind of why we were a little bit more judgy.
Also, I think just the atmosphere was like really nice because it was like, it's beginning to be like Christmas. Sorry if our dog's in the room, so if you hear
doing her own thing.
water slurping and fur shaking, that's not me. But yeah, it was just our first
Christmas market.
Market festivities, right? Because we weren't home for Thanksgiving, right? We literally left America on Halloween. So
the holiday festive spirit was definitely strong here, and that was like really nice because it made us feel like we were focusing on celebrations. And of course, though, like I never really realized it, but it shouldn't surprise me that like almost everywhere we went that played Christmas music, it was almost always American, American artists at least, and their Christmas albums. And I don't know if that's just, because a lot of American music is like one of our biggest exports, but it was just like there was no other never any other, at least when we were there or that we heard, artists, like there was nothing in French, there was nothing in German. It was just all English American Christmas songs being played. And even when people were playing live music and singing, they were singing American songs.
Yeah.
So we were like, oh, this like strangely feel very at home.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that was like a really great taste of Christmas markets. It was just everyone being outside despite it being really cold. Like there's something about like everyone being collectively willing to like endure.
Yeah.
That
I think that was cool. I don't know. It's just like here in the Bay, like we have Christmas in the park. It's nothing close to a Christmas market anywhere else. Honestly, like you could probably take, I don't want to say the crappiest Christmas market, but honestly, if there was a crappiest Christmas market, I still feel like it would be better than Christmas in the park. You know what I mean? Just because I don't know, it's just the atmosphere over there, or the different foods, or just the hot cocoa. You see people ice skating. The decorations are all crazy versus here where the decorations are just like, just people put up like it's kind of like a billboard or whatever. You know what I mean? It's like one of those things that it's like a cutout you put your face through, and then that's kind of it. Like, oh, look at me, I'm a Christmas tree. Like that's kind of as far as decorations go. And of course there's like a big tree at Christmas at the park. But here it just feels like as soon as you walk through like the gates or whatever, you just feel it. Whereas here you just don't. But that could just be me. I mean,
that's true. Carl's very particular about Christmas time feelings.
Yeah, like it hasn't felt, Christmas has never felt like Christmas when I'm in the Bay. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it just doesn't feel like Christmas here. Like even in the Philippines, like when I'm around family, but I don't want to compare it to that because you're around family. Like, especially when I went a long time ago, first time in the Philippines or second time in the Philippines during Christmas, and of course it's you feel it because you're around family and we're just doing fireworks, but it's weird at the same time because it's 90 degrees outside, but in Europe, yeah, just I don't know. Even though we're eating momos and bafanas and nothing like Christmassy other than our Bailey's hot chocolate, like even that's not super Christmassy, but I don't know, the feelings, man, the feels and the vibes. I really liked it.
Yeah, I agree. It was definitely like extra Christmassy feeling, festive, I should say. But yeah, I think that overall though, that was like the moment where it felt like, yeah, the holidays are upon us. Like this is Christmas time, even though it was still like early December, second-ish week of December. And we're like, it's not Christmas yet, but it's not in the same way that like Christmas technically starts really early in the States, because our malls, you start to get all like if you go out and you go to the malls or you see shopping, like Christmas stuff comes out like the 2nd October, Halloween is over.
Yeah.
So there, in that sense, we have a longer period of holiday awareness. I guess you can call
That's
it,
why probably it's like by the time it's Christmas, you're like over it. Yeah, because I mean, radio stations here start playing Christmas music after Halloween, like the day after Halloween, and it's like, let's get to Thanksgiving first. But I think the biggest thing about the feeling of like that Christmassy feeling or that festive feeling, here, I guess I just thought of this. Okay, I'm probably gonna get ripped. People are probably gonna tell me, "Well, get out of America" or whatever. Well, we're trying. But I feel like in America, all these holidays, they're not necessarily about like family or like food or sharing or community anymore. Okay, I feel like they used to be. I think now it's just like, let's buy this, let's get mom this, let's get your kid this. I'm gonna stay in line, fight for this TV on Black Friday, and elbow someone at Walmart. I'm gonna, it's consumer stuff. It's just buy, because these are when the sales are. Well, these companies know how to do a sale. They know you're gonna buy stuff during this time, so that's why they do it. But it just doesn't. Like here in America, it just doesn't ever feel like a holiday. You know what I mean?
It's a thing to do.
Yeah.
And to get through for some people. I totally can see that.
Yeah, but over there, it's definitely just about being together. Like I said, like the food isn't crazy good. It wasn't crazy good there, but knowing that it's crazy expensive, I don't know, the vibes are still there. Like we would still do it and partake because it really just felt like, it's not about just,
It was definitely like a social event. It felt, you see a lot of families out there, especially because all the kids are like ice skating, and a lot of like couples and like people just like, they had all these like gazebos and tables where people could eat their food, and it was like very communal feeling. So even though we like didn't know anybody there, and we were kind of keeping to ourselves for the most part, but just like walking around, like you felt very surrounded and like in the middle of people.
Yeah. And it didn't feel like people were like irritated that it was crowded. Like I feel like if that same market was somewhere in America, I'd feel like people would just like there would be so much tension because people would be waiting forever for okonomiyaki. And then there would probably be a fight, and then I just feel like the opportunity of something bad to happen is way bigger here than over there, where it's like I'm not saying like shit doesn't happen over there. I mean, things happen, but I don't know. I don't know how to explain it. I probably sound extra dumber than usual, like talking about it. It's just a feeling, you know what I mean? It's hard to explain, but it is a feeling, and I really liked it. I sounded like a Katy Perry song.
Yeah, no, it's definitely not easy to describe feelings sometimes, and it's hard to capture it in words, and like we're trying to do our best to share these things with you guys so that hopefully you guys have an inkling or just a little spark, and you're inspired to go check it out for yourself. Maybe we'll just talk about more foods, and that will be a little bit easier.
Yeah, or it's definitely, this podcast isn't just to remember what we did, but like definitely open up a conversation about some of the serious stuff that we talk about, like what we're talking about with like just now about feelings, or like why it's so different here in the States versus like somewhere else, or
No, there's a lot that's the point of travel, right? Is to gain new perspectives and experiences. And everyone who ever travels knows there's no way to actually pass on or share that experience with people or have that perspective. You can't tell someone perspective. Like they have to see it for themselves. They have to experience it for themselves in order to really understand. So go travel, guys.
Yeah, just get out there. I mean, if it's
when it's safe,
safe to,
absolutely.
or if you're comfortable to. I know there are countries that are open, and if you're cool with it, go for it, and do the right thing, cover up, and stuff like that. But anyway, we also had another first in Geneva. Real quick, last thing, few things. Fondue.
Oh yes.
Our first fondue restaurant, fondue
Mine
spot.
Ever. I've never had fondue.
I've never either. I've never done to do. I've never fondued, not even at home.
Yeah, but I remember there was like maybe in the late 2000s, like before, like when there was some restaurant near here that did fondue. I don't know if it's called
like, it's either Stinking Rose or Wicked. It's like something like that. I'm not sure. I might have gotten
fondue,
things
and people were all about it, and I was like, meh, whatever.
Yeah.
But then we were like, when we just said something, we're like, okay, we have to try it. Like if I'm ever going to eat fondue, it should be here. So
correct. And we did. And side story on the way there, I don't know what it is about me.
Carl has this
I don't know, like
tendency to attract certain types of people.
If you're watching this right now on YouTube and you can see my face, would you offer me weed? Let's just put it at that. Would you offer me weed?
Amongst other things.
and other drugs. Like, I don't know what it specifically is about my look, but they're just random people just passing me by or just chilling right there asking if I want weed.
So many
or
different
Coke.
countries we've gone to, and or just walking down the street and some guy will pass us and ask Carl if he wants something. And it's like all different kinds of people, but always Carl.
Just me. And it's
doesn't
just
matter
like,
where we are.
Yeah. And I'll like look ahead of us and I'm just like, yo, that guy for sure looks like he does drugs. Why didn't no one like ask that guy? Like, I don't understand. Like, what is it, a height requirement that like if I don't pass 5 foot something, then you probably like weed? I don't know. I don't I don't really know. Maybe they watched a podcast or something and was like, this kid probably smokes weed. But
Oh,
I don't know
goodness.
what it is, but they just like, and these guys are just, I want to say they're in a group. They got the same person they got to, pay.
Multiple times, yeah.
And
Like you
so
just a couple
one
feet of-
corner, you looking for some weed? No, I'm good. Later, 10 steps later, another dude. Hey, you want some weed? No, I'm good. Cause like we passed like 4 or 5
Yeah.
guys asking me if I wanted like drugs on the way to fondue. Like I don't know, is this a requirement for fondue? Like at some point I was like, do I need to smoke in order to enjoy fondue? I really didn't know because
Yeah, they were particularly literally around the block of this restaurant. And the street that it's on is quite dark.
oh yeah, it's very dark.
And
I didn't
so
feel
I
safe.
found
at
it
all.
really intimidating. Also because it's not like these guys were like spread out, like maximizing their area of business.
Yeah.
They were like condensed onto the street. And it's like, don't you think you guys are like making it like more competitive amongst yourselves if you're all going to go after the
Yeah.
same customers? Like that didn't really
well,
make sense.
I guess also like I just felt super on edge. Like now that I think about it, it's like it's funny, right? I'll look at myself. I'll remember that moment and look at myself in the mirror and says, I don't really see it. I don't get it. Why are people asking if I need drugs? But I think we came from Morocco where it just felt like harassed and
It was too
what I
aggressive.
mean? It was so aggressive in Morocco or Marrakesh. And like, I don't know. I don't want to say it was like PTSD, but you know what I mean? Like it was just like that
It was a
trauma.
trigger.
Yeah, like I just didn't feel comfortable. And then after like we ate at this fondue spot, like, they were still out there. Even worse, they were like congregated in like one area in the dark.
I know. You're just like, and this is like a nice restaurant too. So it was like very weird that it was on this like super dark street and, that these guys like particularly hung out there. Like we're like, there's no like other restaurants or things in the area that would like attract people to go there. So we're like, just like, what is the correlation or connection here?
Yeah. So that's that story. But
aside, the fondue.
fondue?
place
yeah.
and the fondue was amazing.
Yeah, it was really good actually. It was a very good first experience of fondue. There's you could order ones with just the cheese or whatever, and then you can also order ones with alcohol.
The different flavors.
Different flavor, just different alcohols. I think they had one with, I want to say beer, and then some with wine in there. I don't remember specifically what we ordered.
We had
I think
something like shallots and bacon.
something like that. I thought we had some alcohol in there as well.
Possible.
Yeah.
I just remember the shallots and the bacon. But the restaurant is quite small, maybe, less than 30 people in it, right?
Just about.
But the walls are covered with these fondue paraphernalia, like paintings that are like great. So like all your famous, paintings like Mona Lisa, and the Last Supper, but all of them with like fondue like in it, like somebody's like holding a stick or got like, so it was like super cute. And it's just so cozy inside because, fondue is like everything's like heated and they've got your like little tea light to keep it warm. And so the atmosphere is like super, super cozy. And we had made reservations by going there during the day and like just asking if they had, a table, which was a good thing that we did because it seemed like you just need reservations to.
Yeah, it was packed. We got there. It's a full house. Like even though it is cozy, like, it's a party.
Yeah.
People
Yeah,
are
we
like
were, like,
drinking.
And we felt a little bit left out because it felt like every time somebody came in, like, because we booked an early table, obviously, so because we were last minute reservation. But everyone who came in after us, like the way they talked to the hostess or the servers, they were just like regulars or something. Like they came off as like super familiar, super friendly, and we're just like, man, like, I don't know. Like we're so like, we felt like, like just sore thumbs out, like really like not part of this like fondue community.
Yeah.
It's like we're probably missing out on something. Like,
I mean,
God, like,
they probably all buy weed from the guys. That's why they asked us if we wanted weed.
we failed the test.
Yeah, yeah. If we bought weed, we probably would have fit in better.
Maybe. But yeah, so the fondue is like super rich. I'll say it was so all of it's like stuff I would not normally eat because it's like heavy, rich, creamy cheese. Then they have like those pickles, like the little cornichon
yeah.
that you love, and like pickled onion, like pearl onions. We also got like the meat plate or whatever, I think for the salami or the whatever. What did
Like a charcuterie plate almost.
Yeah. And then of course there's bread. And it just felt like normally I'm not like really into like pickled stuff. Only more recently have I ever eaten pickled things. Korean food has taught me to eat more pickled foods. But like with the fondue, like you need it because it's like the cheese is so rich that you need something to cut into that cheese. Otherwise you just feel like it's like so thick.
Yeah, thick.
And
you might
coats your tongue. And
might get a little sick after, a while. After, like, it's a huge bowl. Like, it's a big bowl.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah.
It's not like a skinny dip. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you're like, can you imagine drinking a bowl of like melted cheese? Like, it's a lot.
It sounds wonderful.
In reality, it's not an easy feat. And I remember like we were like, there's still some left, and we were just like, God, I don't think we can do it.
Yeah, we had to tap out. That's probably why we didn't fit in.
But then that song came on, that never gonna give you up, never gonna give up, and I was just like, oh my God, this is just too perfect. It's like, we can't give up, must keep going. So I don't remember if we like finished every last drop, but I think we did really good.
We did pretty good for two people.
Yeah.
For two people. I mean, the other tables had at the very least like 4, I want to say. Yeah.
There was a big party that was like next to us too. Yeah. So it's definitely, fondue for 2. You should always make it more than that. It's definitely a party dish.
Yeah. So anybody that wants to do, not mountain, but fawn, let us know.
Talking about cheese though, I did like another thing that kind of I surprised myself was when we ended up at that Italian sort of pizza restaurant randomly. This is part of the problem when you don't like super research, like, because we try not to overplan certain details. So sometimes restaurants we're like, okay, we're just going to go to this area and then we're going to find something that looks good because we kind of want to leave it up to, like discovery. But then we get into this problem where we're really hungry and we're walking back and forth and we can't decide on a restaurant.
I can never decide what to eat.
Because, we're trying to like not end up in a touristy restaurant, but sometimes like you don't know, you can't tell, there's not enough people, especially during wintertime. If you can't, like, there's no lines outside, or you have to kind of like actually open a door to like see how busy a place is. It's not as easy to find good spots. So we finally ended up going because we were like, I'm down for some pizza. Went to this Italian restaurant that was like mildly nautically themed, and I was sort of like, I guess so, yeah. Like, why not? But Carl ended up getting this like burger that had like really nice melted cheese on it too. And then I ended up ordering a pizza that turned out to be a calzone because they don't call it a calzone, so I had no idea it was a calzone. But that monster, and I finished it, and I was so surprised by myself. But the cheese, just Switzerland has good cheese.
Oh yeah, they got some
Swiss.
good cows there.
Yeah, it's delicious.
And goats and sheeps and
all the things, all the cheesemakers. Yeah, so I was like really shocked. Never really thought that like I'd be like, oh man, the quality of this burger and pizza were excellent. I was like, I think because in America, pizza and burgers to us is like not.
It's normal.
Yeah, it's a more common everyday thing. It's not something that's like elevated or like gourmet. I mean, certainly nowadays we have some, but Yeah.
I mean,
we
for
were just
burgers,
like,
as gourmet as you get is either the stuff in Vegas or Shake Shack, because that's way too expensive for a burger. For any of you guys that, I mean, I don't care if you rip me for this one, In-N-Out all day, but man, for what you pay for at In-N-Out, come on, how do you pick Shake Shack from that? Like, I understand, sure, it's a tasty burger, but man, when we bought it,
yeah, when we went to New York,
we
and
shared a freaking value meal just to like
taste.
Shake Shack. Oh, a value meal costs like 15 to like $17. What?
And it was the smallest portion of a shake, small fries and a burger.
Crazy. That, yeah. But anyway, yeah, so to us, like, burgers are like, I don't want to say they're whatever, but they're whatever.
But this place,
burger, oh man,
yeah,
it was like oozing out. The cheese was like oozing. Like, as soon as you cut it in the middle, it had a cheese skirt.
just dripping
Just
down.
dripping and oozing down. But yeah, that's pretty much a lot of the food we ate. Cheesy stuff, fondue. We didn't have very many days in Geneva. Our next stop is Zurich. Also, if you do one last thing, go ahead.
No, but one thing I do want to mention is the chocolate shop we went to, because it was actually a very nice shop.
Are you sure this isn't Zurich?
No, I'm sure it's Geneva, because we ate them with our curtain bathroom. I remember it was what we would eat when we got back, so I would feel better about the room we were in. But it's called like Martel Cornavin or something like that. But it's actually like a lot of these chocolate shops are like tea rooms, or you can go and have like lunch and have tea or whatever. But they also have chocolate and desserts and stuff. And I remember, like, you know, because I'm a big fan of dark chocolate, and Carl was like, yeah, you should get some chocolates here. And I was just like, but every time we go, we like peek into a shop, it looks like really pretentious. And I just hate that kind of atmosphere. And so I was like really hesitating to go into the shop, but we had looked it up, and, you know, people were really recommending it. And I was like, oh, like, I don't really want to sit. And like, we could, when you walk in, you just see like the tables for the tea service. So I was kind of like, well, we don't want to like sit here. We just wanted to like try and get some chocolates. And the guy comes up to us, and very, very well mannered. And I always have this, it's like a Napoleon complex. Like, I have this thing where I feel really insecure and like not confident, and I just feel like people are gonna like look at me like I'm a child, like I don't belong here, like, you know, we're not well dressed because we look very touristy, because we're like, that's all we got with us
For a year.
yeah, like with our backpacks and everything, you know. But the guy was like immaculate manners, was just like so welcoming. He was like, oh, like, oh, you're not here for the service? Like, oh yeah, we can have chocolates. Yes, absolutely. Like, follow me into the shop. And then like whipped out this giant menu so that you could see what the chocolates were. And I was like, oh, wow, okay, like, but how do we go about like buying it? Is it by weight? Are there packages? And he was like really helpful, like totally willing to like, oh, you know, however you'd like to, you know, you can buy it by the weight, you can buy it, you know, we can just piece out whatever it is, and then you can pay for it. We have, you know, ready set boxes and stuff like that. So I ended up just getting like one of each of the dark chocolates. And of course, I like wrap it really nice for you and everything. But one that I really liked was called the tonka. And apparently it's because it has this like really nice textural bit to it, which turns out to be like these crystallized tonka beans, which are actually from Brazil. Random, but yeah, it was like a really lovely piece of chocolate. So you guys, highly recommend chocolate and fondue. And don't buy weed from the scary people.
Yeah, don't buy weed. Yeah, you don't want to get in trouble.
Yeah.
How many days did we stay there altogether?
We were there about three to 4 days, like 3 nights, you know, roughly 4 days. One great thing about Geneva is if you do book a hotel or a stay, like usually they give you a transportation card for your time there. So you get free public transportation, which helps. Keep in mind also that Sundays, like everything kind of shuts down. So a lot of restaurants, shops, stores, even grocery stores are kind of closed. One thing that was open was Starbucks, because we literally had to get lunch there because nothing else was open. And I remember that.
Because, you know, America.
But yes, so that was our time in Geneva. It was super educational, inspirational in a very surprising way. And I think it just like geared us up ready for Christmas in Europe.
For sure. Yeah. So, Also, we've posted some of the favorite things that we do like. We talked about some here, but check out our favorite things to do, see, eat in Geneva video, and we'll link that in the description. We'll put all the notes there. Our blog is up for this as well. So, yeah.
That's it from us. Next time we will be in Zurich and we'll share about that experience. A lot of good stuff there too.
More Christmas markets.
Yes, indeed. All right, thanks so much for watching / listening, guys. Don't forget to like, subscribe, all those good things. Let us know if you have any questions or comments, suggestions, recommendations, all the good things. We'll see you on the next one.
Bye.
Bye.